feel like the whole world forgot about you, thinking, wondering what's going on the outside. You calling your folks. Some pick up, some don't. All right. What's good with you, homeboy? Glad you're back with me. You know how I do it. I don't do no speeches. I don't do no motivational talk. I don't do none of that. I just keep it real with you. This is really actually from me to you, man to man, spirit to spirit. I've been down before. I know what it's like to have that experience of being behind them walls, behind them gates, being in that chain gang. It don't just, lock you in physically. It hits your mind and your soul too. It hits you every sorts of way. You feel like the whole world forgot about you, You in there constantly thinking, wondering what's going on the outside. You calling your folks. Some pick up, some don't. You just feel like time moving, without you. But I'm gonna tell you something. There's a gift in this, and I realize there's a gift. A truly blessing, I would say, but truly a gift. And I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. Prison gave me something I didn't even know I needed, and when I first got locked, I was mad at everything, mad at everybody, homeboys, mad at the system, mad at majority of my family, I was even mad at God at the time, especially him. How you let me end up in here? But then at the same time, can't really blame him, because you got free will. You have that choice. I had that choice, and I took the wrong choice. But what I didn't realize back then was God wasn't punishing me. I felt like he was at that time. Like, why this is always happening to me when I'm trying to accomplish to do something. But see, I was doing things the wrong way. And so therefore, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing, but I wasn't. And he was pulling me away to fix me, you know what I mean? That's what he was doing. That's how you gotta see it. When you get jammed up doing something wrong, it could have been a situation where, you could have died. You could have, it could have been worse. But he pulled you out of that situation just to fix you, so he fixed me. So out there, I was, moving reckless. No guidance, no morals. It was just about getting money. It was about drinking, smoking. Always busy, always proving something. That's how I always was, Trying to, the story. Trying to survive. Try to, numb that pain. Trying to be something I wasn't. But, behind that wall, ain't nowhere to run. Ain't no mask to wear. And that's when the real work starts. That's when the progression starts. Sometimes you get tired, man. You get tired of, hurting your folks. You start to realize you've been hurting people. Because not only that you doing time, your family doing time with you. You thinking everything's good. You sitting in that cell, you in prison. Your folks doing time with you because they worried about you. I know mine was. And I realized, man, they was doing time. They doing time with you, man. And that's the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing. You get up, you wake up, you think, how your folks doing out there, because the longer you in there, the more things happen. People die. Things happen. I remember the time where God spoke to me You know, he started talking to me, but you know, he was talking to me where, you know, in a quiet, soft sound. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I felt him at that time. Rephrase that. He was basically telling me, you know, I see you, son. I never left you. You know, and I've been waiting on you to stop running. That's what he was telling me. You know, that's what I heard. And that's when I realized the gift. And prison made me slow down. Even though it was hard in there, you know, you got guys in there, you know, they testosterone is high, they want to try you, you know, they think you're soft, or, you know, you got situation where, okay, somebody's stealing out your cell, out your locker, and, you know, sometimes you put in a situation where, you know, things could end up harming you or harming that person. But then you gotta realize, you know, you're going home. You know, you got a date. Some people don't got a date and they still act like they going home, and they still humble, and they still, you know, think. You know what I'm saying? You gotta think in there, because if you don't think in there, you could just react, and, you know, the possible could happen. You know what I mean? And that made me look in the mirror. You know what I mean? And yeah, it hurt, but it healed me though. It healed me to know that I was in there, you know, stuck in there, and, you know, and it hurt me, and it hurt my family, you know, deeply. So, you know, I started getting to praying. I prayed different, you know. Like I say, there's ways of communicating to God. You know what I mean? Don't matter. You could write. You could say it in your mind. You could talk. You could meditate. You could start by, you know, how I did. You know, I started forgiving folks and myself. You know, I started remembering who I really was before the street hardened me. You know, because I was in the church. You know what I mean? I was in the church. I grew up in church. You know, it's not like I didn't know what was right and from wrong, but I knew, you know, and I just chose to live a lifestyle that I fell into. And I saw all this pain, and it wasn't the end of my story. Even all through that pain, and it still wasn't the end of my story. It was like in the middle. Some dudes just don't realize how blessed to be, you know, in a situation where, okay, you're not in harm's way, and you could have been dead many times, but God saved you. And a lot of dudes don't realize that you still walking and breathing. You know, you still able to wake up. You know, some of them don't realize that. You feel me? So we wake up to what really matters. We see the lies we've been living under, and we start building something new from the inside out. We started doing that because we started to realize, man, this ain't what it is. I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody, especially prison. Nobody, even the ones that's in there now. I don't wish bad on nobody, but anybody listening, whether you behind a wall or just feel stuck in life, don't waste this pain, because you need to use it. Let God shape you. Stand still for a minute without being judgmental and without the anger. You know, just be still, because once you know that, once you connect with God for real, man, can't nothing stop you. You know, just take that time out. You know, and when I walked out them gates, and some of you guys know what I mean, and y'all can relate. You ain't even gotta relate. You probably know somebody that came out. You know what I mean? That wonderful feeling. You see that wonderful feeling seeing your peoples come out, or you got that wonderful feeling where you coming out. You know, it might look like you lost everything, but the truth is you might just be gaining the one thing most folks never find, and that's yourself. You know what I mean? So stay solid, stay grounded. God ain't done with you yet, and neither are you. You're not done. So please be kind, stay focused, stay humble, stay in that word, stay in that Bible, stay in good faith with God. I promise you, He'll see you all the way through. Once again, my name is Woody. May God bless you.